What is up, everybody? This is Chase, and welcome back to the Wellness Center podcast, where we are destigmatizing mental health one episode at a time. Everyone, I am so grateful you're here with me today. If you can't tell, my voice is a little bit deeper. I wish that's just because I hit some masculinity in my life, but it's unfortunately because I'm just a little sick. So my throat is just a little froggy and horsey. So please forgive me for these next few episodes as I'm kind of going through this recovery process. I hope everyone's been having a good summer so far. It's probably end of August when this episode comes out. So I hope everyone's enjoying the nice weather and everyone is enjoying the nice water and the warmer water. And everyone, I hope, had a great 4th of July and Independence Day. Guys, as you are listening to this episode today, first, I just want to say like how awesome my guest is. Not only do I know this guy personally in my life, and I've known him for multiple years, but what he's doing with his life, the way he's aspiring to help and serve others is really cool. And that's why I wanted to have him on. So I'm really excited for him today. Guys, as you're listening to this episode today, I want you to be thinking of someone that you know is going to benefit from this episode, and I want you to share it with them. Not only is that going to give them a personal touch from you, letting them know you care about them, but you're also going to help provide some skills and tools that they might be able to use in their day-to-day life. That's only going to help make them better. And I also invite you, if you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you can become a part of our Wellness Center tribe. And if you're listening on a podcast platform like Apple or Spotify, please go ahead and leave me a 5-star review and a comment on this episode, letting us know about how awesome my guest is today. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on so we can just start to celebrate this amazing man. So guys, my guest, he has a degree in communication study from USU. He has expertise in interpersonal communication and conflict resolution skills. He's a recovering people pleaser. He's passionate about emotional intelligence. He's a successful entrepreneur, and he's played a pivotal role in multiple companies, helping them achieve massive success. So without further ado, I have the one and the only Nick Moyle on the show. Nick, how you doing today, bro?
It's gonna be a fine day today, I can see. It's gonna be a fine day today, I can see. Gonna be a fine day today for you and me.
Good, man. How are you?
Good. I am doing so good, man. Thank you for taking time to come and be on my show today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. Little bit of advertisement for Chase here at the Wellness Center. I'm sitting in one of the pod rooms actually. So I just did a quick session before this and I'm feeling really good. I did the one for anxiety and I just feel upbeat and calm. So it was really good. Little plug for the Wellness Center. But
dude, thanks for the plug, man. I appreciate it. And it's funny, a lot of what we do on this show is over Zoom, and a lot of times I just kind of like I assume and I don't communicate like, hey, this is over Zoom. I just assume. And so we're getting ready for the episode, and Nick just walks in the front door, and I hear him talking to the front desk lady, who's my mom, and he was just like, "Hey, I'm here for Chase Warburton." And I was like, "Oh," but no. So he go ahead.
it was good. It was good. I enjoyed seeing it. I enjoyed being here. We're toying with the idea of me helping this center out a little bit with different things. So I'm excited to see. I was excited to see it and I wanted to see it and it was good. So definitely props to this. So
yeah, dude. And it's kind of a cool testament to the human resilience and technology that we can still make an over Zoom meeting happen literally a wall apart.
he's over there.
he's through that wall right there. Oh man. So yeah, no, guys, a little bit about Nick. I know he'll get into some of his cookie cutter answers here in a minute, but he's a salesperson by profession. And we're working on developing a
Unfortunately, right? No, I'm just kidding.
No, dude, it's one of the best jobs in the world.
Kidding.
No, I think sales are one of the best, hardest, worst jobs in the whole wide world. But yeah, no, so we're working on developing a business package for businesses with red light therapy. And me and Nick have been talking about bringing him in and incorporating that kind of stuff into sales, into our red light therapy practice. So that was one of the good reasons why he came down today, other than just the miscommunication. So Nick, so the viewers can get to know you a little bit better, bro. Can you just give us some cookie cutter answers as to who you are and what you're about?
Yeah. So I grew up in Perry, Utah. I'm going to be a little more specific with my answers than I've heard a couple other people on the show be. I think that's relevant. So I
Cool.
live up in Logan now. That's how me and Chase met. Was just we were neighbors, and then he moved away, and I cried a
Mhm.
little tear. But then on the drive down here, I realized why he moved closer to here. So, but no, I live up there. I've got a wife, 2 kids. Love them to death. They're so much fun to be with. Got a degree. I've job hopped a lot. I do a lot of little just random side things because I enjoy them. I do a small paintball rental business just out of my garage because it's fun. I knock doors for window cleaning at the moment. Uh, what else have I done? I've worked for solar sales organizations. I've worked in a back office for a solar company. I've ran a window cleaning company before I did this. I've done construction just because I wanted to learn how to flip houses. I've tried just a lot of different little things and really just tried to understand what I want to do and where I want to be in life. And a lot of that I've felt guided towards just emotional intelligence and helping people understand themselves. We all have things we deal with, and we'll get into that a little bit more in this. But I appreciated Chase's call out. Hey, if you know anybody that, as I describe myself and what I've experienced, that this sounds like, please send it to them. I've dealt with OCD, intense OCD for years, and it manifests as anxiety and it manifests as perfectionism. But we'll get more into that a little bit, as far as why that comes up and where that happens. But it's something that I now have. I feel like I used to be trampled by the bull. Now I feel like I ride the bull. Every now and again I get bucked off, but most of the time I feel like I'm up there on it. And it wasn't overnight, but I know we're going to get kind of more into that down the road. But that's my goal, is that hopefully this information will help somebody that is in a place that they feel dark and they can't get out of. But we'll let Chase ask the questions. We'll back up, explain my story, and then I'll give you a little more detail exactly as to what I'm thinking. But yeah, is that enough cookie cutter for you there, Chase?
That's great cookie cutter, dude. And I'm actually curious, what's kind of guided you? Because like, so since I know Nick, right, him and I were actually hanging out and talking last night, and he was mentioning that he's thinking about going back and getting his master's in some sort of therapeutic licensure, right? Whether that's like a marriage and family therapist or a clinical social worker, right? I'm just curious, like with all of these little like job hops and mainly sales kind of realm that you've been in, what kind of has guided you over time to this point where you're like, okay, I actually want to start helping people?
I've always wanted to help people. There's always this, and it's the conflict resolution idea, right? There's
Mhm.
interpersonal conflicts, which is like conflict between you and me, which there isn't a ton, but or there's intrapersonal conflict, which is conflict inside of yourself.
Mhm.
And I think every dad goes through this. I have to make money for my family, so my first reaction is, hey, go do the thing that's going to make me the most money.
Mhm.
And then a lot of me is, hey, I just want to be there to serve people. And there's been a long time that there was a long time that I felt like I couldn't simultaneously do both, because to serve somebody is to do something without asking for anything in return.
Right.
And so that's been like the biggest, like, how do I reconcile these two things? And I'm not perfect at it. I'm still figuring out the answer for me, but I have realized that, while money is good and it's nice and it's needed, I don't have to stress about it honestly, ultimately, because Heavenly Father and God have my back.
Mhm.
Like, to live in fear doesn't serve me.
Right.
And it'll make let's jump to your first question, Chase, because these questions that you're asking will make a lot more sense in context after I've kind of explained my story,
Cool,
if
dude.
that's okay.
Yeah, I'm all about that, bro. So yeah, Nick, take us back to a young Nick Moyle. When were some of the first times you noticed you were struggling with your mental health?
So I had a really good growing up life. I had a
Mhm.
dad that worked 2 jobs. So like, he was a structural engineer, is a structural engineer.
Mhm.
Worked a second job teaching at Utah State University engineering classes so that I could serve an LDS mission.
Mhm.
Um, and so that he could pay for it so that I could play lacrosse year round.
Mhm.
I loved lacrosse. That was my jam. That was what I loved. I still get excited and get goosebumps when I go watch it, and I just want to get in there and play. But a little bit old now for high school.
Yeah, I've
So
I've never played lacrosse before. You'll have to take me sometime.
It is fun. I've got extra sticks. I've got extra sticks at my garage, so we can at least pass the ball around. But
Perfect, dude. We'll call it the Bad Hip League.
I'm down. So, but so I had a really good growing up life. I mean, like obviously that doesn't mean it was perfect. I remember one time in particular, I was about 17, and I was sitting in lunch with my friends, and I had a really good group of friends. We always hung out, like we were always doing something. There were about 15 dudes and 2 girls, and it was just fun. We just had a lot of fun. And I just remember sitting in lunch and just feeling heavy for literally no reason. I hadn't done anything that warranted the guilt that I was feeling. And like I was a good kid. I
Mhm.
told the line. I would call my mom and ask her permission to slough. She'd never told me that I could, and I would always listen. And I know that's not everybody, and it's okay. You're gonna think, oh, Nick Moyle, goody two shoes, but that's okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but that's just who I was. I wanted to do good. I wanted to do right by people, and just because I just wanted to do the right thing.
Right.
I wanted to do good, be good, feel good. And so to have this heaviness for seemingly no reason felt really weird and just off. And so
Mhm.
I just got up from the lunch table and I went, I just walked and was by myself and just wanted to cry for seemingly no reason.
Mm.
Um, and looking back, I think a lot of it is for whatever reason, I can walk into a room and I can pick up on people's emotions. And I
Mhm.
honestly think now that that was just people that I was feeling around me that were struggling and I didn't know it. And I
Mhm.
have an idea now who exactly's feelings I was feeling,
Mhm.
just because of some stuff he went through and was one of my really good friends. But I wish I would have known a little bit better how to be in tune with my emotions and
Mhm.
understand what people are feeling better,
Mhm.
um, as I went through that. So that was the first time that I really felt like heavy and could kind of understand what other people were feeling and notice that I was feeling something else. As far that was like that, so that was that. Then this one kind of leads into the hero journey because this is where I took a turn that wasn't good for me. It
Mhm.
wasn't bad, like it wasn't a horrible thing to do, but I ended up dating a girl and very much felt like I was getting um, feelings and gut impressions, and I call it the spirit that said, "Don't date her. It's not time." I had it for like a solid week. I
Mhm.
was like, "She's really cute. I really like her," and I dated her anyways. And
Mhm.
um, And then about a month and a half after us dating, we were like, I was a senior in high school. We were both getting ready to graduate. I knew I was going to go on a 2 year leave of absence for a mission. Um, I didn't know what she was going to do. So I was just like, do you really want to be dating? And then she kind of played like because I wasn't super committed, or like, I think that was what I portrayed as that I wasn't super committed. She then
Mhm.
gave me the response of, oh, I don't know. And she got a little flaky. And then I just took a remote basically and handed her the controls for my emotions and how I felt. And that was really when OCD was triggered. Was I then had feelings of, okay, I'm not good enough unless so and so likes me, or if I can't do X, Y, and Z correctly, then I'm never going to be enough. And that was really what started this whole ball rolling down this hill. And I carried that into the Philippines with me on
Mhm.
the service mission and turned it into religion and less about interpersonally. It was more, okay, if I couldn't do and be the best missionary that I could be, then I was going to hell. And
Mhm.
if I couldn't quote unquote baptize as many people as I could, because I've learned a lot about this.
Yeah.
That I no longer have these same thoughts, but I just was so hard on myself. Like if I was a minute late waking up, I was hated myself for the rest of the day and was like, okay, I
Mhm.
just have to. Today's a waste. I screwed up at 6:31 this morning when I was supposed to be up at 6:30, so the whole day's going to pot. Um, or I'd get out the door 5 minutes late with my companion. Same story. That's the story I would tell myself. Um, I didn't allow for there to be grace, and it was funny because I'm here serving a mission for my church, talking about Jesus Christ and the love and the joy that can come from it. But the longer I was on that mission, the more and more I hated myself and the angrier I got.
Mhm.
And that isn't to say there weren't good things that happened. I met a lot of really good people and saw a lot of really cool things in people's lives that were changed.
Mhm.
Ultimately, it set me on a path to be more altruistic and try to be more helping other people, regardless of how it worked for me. But then at the same time, there was this whole, it was an interpersonal conflict where I was like, hey, how do I deal with these feelings of shame? And I know now that it's shame, where I hated
Mhm.
myself and I was judging myself and very critical of myself. And I didn't want to talk about it with anybody. And anybody that I tried to talk about it with was just like, it's your deal. You're fine. Quit. Just relax. Go do your thing.
Mhm.
Never helped because it didn't feel like it. I just felt very invalidated and very um, ignored.
Yeah, I can
And I was
imagine.
sitting here, and I'm just sitting here struggling, going, how do I work with this and still get it to be like, I remember I'd wake up and I'd have to walk around with my head up. The moment I looked at the ground, my thoughts would start spiraling and I get negative and more hard on myself and I just plummet. And I had a companion that was just like, keep your head up. I told him, help me keep my head up, keep your head up.
Mhm.
And then I'd find myself thinking again and I'd bring my head back down. And it just weighed on me a lot. I felt very heavy. Actually, I didn't used to slouch as bad as I do now, but I ended up having back problems because I would be like everywhere I went, like it was not good.
Mhm.
Um, so just the weight of the world seemingly, and that carried home with me. I brought that home. I
Mhm.
definitely had moments where I felt like God told me, quit trying to be perfect. When you're hearing this lesson telling you to be more obedient to missionary rules, that's not for you. That's for other people. I was like, but it feels like it's to me. And so I just internalized everything to the point that people pleasing was the only way to work through it, right? Like
Mhm.
I felt like I had to do X, Y, and Z in order to be liked. And so it was just a whole mess of stuff. And I
Yeah.
still, like I said, I feel now like I'm more, as far as the OCD goes and the perfectionism goes,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm more on top of that bowl.
Yeah.
Today, I feel like I'm a little bit dangling off to the side of it, but I'm still holding on the horns, working on throwing my leg back up and over.
There we go.
Um, but I haven't fallen off today, luckily.
There we go. That's
Um,
awesome.
so go ahead.
Well, dude, yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story so far. Obviously, a really cool story. And, one thing for those people who are listening and have listened to multiple episodes is every single person's journey is so different on when mental health comes in, right? And I just love that yours is unique to you. And I have a couple of questions kind of about your story. So you're in high school, you're with your 15 friends, those two girls, you have that empath almost style feeling where like you're picking on other people's emotions. You didn't realize it back then, but you just feel really overwhelmed. You want to cry. Um, was that something that you experienced multiple times after that one experience, or was it just kind of like a random once off experience for you?
No, that was the first time I really noticed that and
Hmm.
really came to realize that I can vibe a room out. It's so weird.
No.
My wife's a
Okay.
massage therapist, and I'm gonna get a little woohoo on people here, but I do energy work to some degree. I'm not
Hmm.
like registered, and I don't do it for people other than my family.
Hmm.
Um, like my siblings and my wife and my kids. Those are the only people I do it for.
Hmm.
But I can. She's taught me how to massage her back and get the knots out of her back, and then at the same time I'm going, holy crap, you got so and so's this emotion stuck in your
Hmm.
body. And I guess it sounds really weird. Basically, everything at its core is energy and it's all vibrations.
Right.
Negative emotions actually, when they scan your brain, when you're feeling negative emotions, they actually resonate at a lower frequency.
Yeah.
And
Like shame
so,
is at 20 hertz, if I'm not mistaken.
see, I don't know the frequencies, but I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
I just know that they're much, much lower than high, super feel good feelings. So, like being upbeat or being joyful or ecstatic or grateful, those resonate much higher than shame, depression, anxiety, panic.
Mhm.
So,
And
um,
you're starting to hear that kind of stuff, especially in the mental health world of people being like, dude, get your energy up. Like Tony Robbins is really big about moving and jumping and clapping and all that kind of stuff because the frequencies in which you're functioning in life are so real. Absolutely. You're spitting truth there. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So I've just realized that so those emotions, because they resonate and move slower, they'll actually slow down and get stuck in your muscles or in your organs or in your brain. Like, yeah, I guess your brain's an organ,
Mhm.
but like they'll get stuck and you have to be able to clear them out. You have to help them move on. So as I'm able to pick up on these things, and I've been able to say some very key things to people that they didn't realize they were doing. I remember one time I was helping. Um, this was before I was just helping family, and then I
Mhm.
realized I can only handle helping family with this. Because half the time it ends up getting stuck on me after I cleared off of them, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I can't bring it home with me. It can't affect me. I need to be able to just help people. So I was helping a friend, and I was like, there's nothing scary coming after you. You'll be okay. And she
Mhm.
just burst into tears, and she's like, how did you know that's what I was even feeling? I'm like, I couldn't tell you, even if I wanted to, other than I
Mhm.
can just feel it. And she was able to release that, let it go, and she was able to. Um, and then another thing that came up is, you need to set boundaries. And she's like, I know who I need to set them with. And it's just like little, like just instantly, she just knew. And then I watched her go and set boundaries with the person.
That's awesome.
Right then and there, and he came back. It was her spouse, and he came back in, and he was a little downcast for a second, but then he got himself back up. But I was just like, A, props to her for acting once she knew what she needed to do.
Mhm.
B, I just, it was cool to watch. And honestly, what I attribute it to, it's energy work, but ultimately everything is energy.
Yes.
And I think like to kind of connect it to religion a little bit, energy is spiritual matter.
Mhm.
And as far as I can understand, what I've been able to put together from my limited knowledge of studying energy work, that's what it is spiritual matter. And it's our
Yeah.
spirits literally talking to each other and using, if you're not careful, you can use the wrong mediums. But if, as long as you're trying to keep yourself aligned with God, he can actually use you to help other people
Yeah.
work through that,
Yeah.
release that.
A lot of
So
people say it's like God working through you, right? It's through that emotional and or the spiritual intelligence, the energetic intelligence. Absolutely, dude. No, it's really cool, man. So obviously you've from that moment, you've really made that a part of your life in a healthy, positive way, is what it sounds like, which is really cool. And I know we'll talk about that a little bit later some more, but
good.
and then that is kind of, I want to kind of lead in and continue with that first question. You talk about your girlfriend and how you kind of metaphorically handed her a remote to your emotions. What was kind of the situation that you had to experience with her that led you to give your emotions over to her? What happened?
She she was very flirty. She actually ended up, and this is, I got to be careful how I say this, because now I have no animosity. Even when they got married, I had no animosity then. When
Mhm.
they started hanging out, dating, flirting, I was pissed. She ended up marrying my best friend,
Hey,
and
okay.
right after she broke up with me,
Oh,
I actually think helped influence him to break up with his girlfriend and then started dating him. So I was really like, and that's honestly why I felt like looking back, I'm like, okay, that's what God was trying to tell me is, yeah, not right time, because she wasn't the right person. And that's
right.
okay. Like, we all learn that. And that was the first person I'd ever seriously steady dated and actually thought there was a future with.
Mhm.
I went on dates all the time. I love people. I like being with people. Um, and so by me saying I handed her a remote to my emotions, I would try to do things to get her to like me. And when
Mhm.
she didn't like me, that would reinforce the I'm not good enough feeling, and just took me in a whole train wreck spiral down. And that was actually the first time I learned about energy work, because my mom knew a lady that was doing it and helped me do it. Dude, I did not, okay, random side tangent here. I did not expect to get on here and talk about energy work, but
Mhm.
hey, cool. I'm excited to.
Let's do
Um,
it.
um, so my mom knew a lady that has since passed away that was able to help me realize it's like I don't need external, like, and I believe her the first time she told me? No. Did I
Mhm.
feel the hope of maybe this is true? Yeah. Was I ready to let that go and realize, hey, I don't need this gal's validation to help me realize that I'm a good person. I can just be loved and I'm lovable as I am.
Mhm.
I didn't want to hear that then. And I remember her asking me logical questions as she's doing the energy work, getting me to that point. And I was just like, no, I'm not ready to hear that. I didn't tell her, but I was just like, no, I'm not ready to hear that yet. She said, do you actually need her to be happy? Well, no.
Mhm.
And then I jumped right back into the negative energy because I still wanted to date her, but she didn't want to date me. And so
Mm.
by handing her control of my emotions, that's what I mean is I gave up all my power and by that, I mean, I blamed her for everything that I was experiencing and feeling. It was her
Mm.
fault because I was trying my best. I was trying to be a good person and she still didn't want me. And so obviously that's on her. And
Right.
so that's one of the biggest things just as I've gone through is I find when I get stuck emotionally, it's because I'm blaming other people and justifying why I'm right and why I'm where I need to be. Um, and why I'm okay to do whatever it is I'm doing, even though that's probably not the most productive and helpful thing.
Well,
Now, is that easier said than done? Totally. Am I
everybody
always
blames.
right? And am I willing to always act on that? No.
Mhm.
Um, I found when I am ready and when I am humble enough, meek enough to just do it. Go look up the definition on meekness, actually, everybody. Like, try and be more meek. It makes life easier. Um,
Sure.
but anyway, so this whole pattern, I'm going to jump back into that original question and kind of the second question, the original of first time I felt anything, second time of, hey, second question of what's the hero's journey. So
Mhm.
after my mission, I got back, tried talk therapy,
Mhm.
was not able to really um, get anywhere with that, really,
Mhm.
because OCD is very different. OCD says there's this big scary bear, and so I'm gonna freeze first, then flight, then fight, right?
Mhm.
So I'm gonna freeze, and then I've got to do something to negate the fear of this bear. I've either got to run or I've got to do something to fight the thing.
Mhm.
And the problem with talk therapy is you can just talk yourself in circles because you're not actually dealing with that trigger of crap. My nervous system is activated and things the sympathetic nervous system is activated, and now I have to jump on this thing and figure it out.
Mhm.
So that's the problem that I found with OCD is that it's super it's in the category of anxiety, but it's very much its own animal
Mhm.
because I have to do something to fix it or not do something to fix it. And so I talk therapy didn't help because I needed to work on address those things, the action part, not the thought
Mhm.
part. Because I needed to prove to myself that that bear wasn't real. And by that bear, I was after another couple of years, I went to the OCD and Anxiety Treatment Center in Bountiful. It's now in Salt Lake City,
Mhm.
and there's about 48 other ones like it across the United States,
Mhm.
where they focus specifically on ERP therapy, exposure response prevention therapy. And
Mhm.
that's the only thing you can do for OCD is you have to do that. If you do anything else, you're sorry out of luck. Um, so specifically, I was diagnosed with scrupulosity.
Okay.
Um, if you look at the definition of scrupulous, it just means very much focused on, intently devotional to um, something, usually typically in a religious setting and
Yeah.
instance.
It's
So
kind of the way it was described to me was it's the
yeah,
OCD of religion.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. So for me, what that looked like is I very much had to read my scriptures every day for an hour, had to pray constantly, otherwise I was going to hell or I wasn't worthy of love. Had to go to the temple at least once a week, if not multiple times a week. Had
Mhm.
to burn myself out in my calling because that's just what you do because you're supposed to sacrifice your life in the service of others. And while I agree there's some truth in it, I definitely think anything taken too far one way is not good.
Right. Right.
Basically,
It's like in our
sorry.
church, they teach all things in moderation.
Mhm.
Right. And a lot of times people think all things in moderation means, oh, video games in moderation, TV in moderation, junk food in moderation. But you don't think scripture study in moderation, church callings in moderation, everything in moderation. Right.
Yeah. And I know apostles that have said, and I know mainly speaking to the LDS crowd here, but hopefully it'll help you guys understand what that aren't LDS will understand why sometimes we are a little overzealous. Um, I've found for me the reason, honestly, truthfully, what it was, the reason scrupulosity comes into play is because I've forgotten who God is and I've taken him out of it, out of the whole religion, which is funny
Mhm.
because that's the purpose of religion. If I'm so focused on reading my scriptures because my salvation is in my scriptures, or saying my prayers because I'm saved by my prayers, I completely leave Jesus Christ out of it, who is the one that purchased our salvation.
Mhm.
So honestly, what's helped me in my hero's journey is understanding more the character of God and Jesus Christ, knowing that yes, they are just,
Mhm.
but there's also a plan of mercy. Yes, they can be angry,
Mhm.
but their anger, I think, is more God on his knees, pleading, crying with us to turn back to him.
Right.
And that is a much more loving, has nothing to do with me, it has everything to do with him.
Mhm.
That I am lovable because I am his son,
Mhm.
not because I did anything to earn his love.
Yeah.
That doesn't excuse us to go do whatever we want, because again, there still is the wrath of God, where, and honestly, I think what the wrath of God is just consequences of our own action or inaction
Right.
against or away from him, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are what I found is I just know that for me, the only way to help with this spiritual OCD, with the religious OCD, is to better try and understand God and
Mhm.
understand the dichotomy of he's just and merciful. He's powerful and gentle. He's all knowing yet compassionate.
Right.
Because I screwed up. I experience shame. We all experience shame. We all do things we don't like and don't. I felt really dumb and a little bit embarrassed when I showed up and didn't realize this was a Zoom meeting. You know what I mean? Like I had to go. I'm learning too,
Yeah, it's a human experience, and you had a human moment.
right?
Yeah, I love it.
So
So the hero's journey, and I know we didn't officially formally bring in the question, so thank you for doing so. For you, it's just been this scrupulosity,
mhm.
right? How long have you been dealing with the scrupulosity?
Manageably.
Hmm.
Another thing you should know is I do take medication for it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
called fluvoxamine. It's specifically for OCD because basically all of us have thoughts, and whether or not they stick basically determines whether or not you have OCD. Like we all have intrusive thoughts of like, what would happen if I did this with my steering wheel while I'm driving down the road? And most people go, whatever, and move on. People with OCD sit and go, holy crap, am I a bad person? Like, am I going to kill somebody just because I had that thought? Like, what is going on? And that's like the I don't know why, and I don't quite understand how. I do know that the medication helps with the synapses firing to allow you a chance to be able to breathe and work through the emotion of holy crap, I'm going to kill somebody, or
Hmm.
holy crap, I'm going to go to hell, or shoot, I'm going to go to jail.
Hmm.
Um, so that I've dealt with that. I've dealt with the undiagnosed OCD. I dealt with that for about 5 years. I've dealt with it diagnosed for about 8.
Gotcha.
And after I went to, like I told you, the OCD and Anxiety Treatment Center, I was in there for Monday through Friday for 3 hours a day for 2.5 months, just practicing these exposures. And
Mhm.
I had to withdraw out of college for a semester, and that brought its own level of shame and stupidity,
Right.
um, and feelings of stupidity because I couldn't hack it. I wasn't enough, and da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
So that being said, also too, I hated that place. It was because talk about being an empath and feeling people's emotions. You go in
Mhm.
there and get sidewalled with this wave of everybody's anxiety as they're working through all of their trauma and crap.
I can imagine that
That
was rough.
sucked.
Yeah.
So that was another reason that was rough. But not only that, it was just like it was rough that I had to do my own exposures. I had to sit and actually one of my exposures I had to cuss, and I hated it.
Hmm.
So I just would sit and I'd just say the F word. and the S word. And I'd just sit there and I'd swear. And I just felt like the worst person ever for doing that.
Mhm.
The point of doing that was to realize, oh, I'm not going to die right now. And I'm not going to hell right now if I do
Mhm.
something bad, if I make a mistake, if I do something wrong.
Mhm.
And it worked. Did I like it? No. Did I hate it? Oh, yeah. Did it work? Yeah. It got way worse before it got better.
I can imagine. And just to kind of bring in the question formally too. So the third question that I have, right, is these skills that you've developed from your hero's journey, right, and how
Yeah.
they evolved over time. So I know we've talked a little bit about like doing some of this therapy at the center where you had to cuss a lot. And I've actually had to do my own version of that therapy too. And then I know you also talked about giving everything to Heavenly Father. Um, so I'd love to, if okay, if I just kind of take us back a little bit, when you talked about like giving everything to Heavenly Father, what did that look like for you at first? And like, what were some of the steps that you had to take to get to a point where you really are just giving it to God?
I'm still getting there.
Cool.
I'm still on that path where I have good days where I am able to give it to him
Hmm.
and trust his timing and trust him. It came with a lot of talks and conversations from my wife was one.
Hmm.
Um, it's funny because she has the joke, you need to be more relaxed and I need to be more, um, what's the word?
Rigid.
Committed.
Oh, committed. Okay, there we go.
So literally the only time we ever have issues is when my OCD is going off because we need to do X, Y, and Z. And she's like, Nick, we're fine. It's okay. God's not going to kill us or make us go to hell for this one thing. And I'm like, but he
Mhm.
might. So those are really the only two times we ever have serious conflict. And it's just funny. And then we have heated moments and then we laugh about it the next day and we're like, okay, I learned something. This is what I learned. And she'll be like, yeah, and I learned this. So I appreciate knowing that. Um, so a lot of it has just been taking time. Most of it, that's really what it's been. It's just taking time to be with him, making sure
Mhm.
that I'm not busy. Because when I'm busy and I neglect, because yes, I don't want to read the scriptures because that's where my salvation is, but it does explain a lot about who Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost are in that.
Right.
And by taking time to be in them and read and really reflect on what they're teaching me about the character of God, whether it's the Bible or the Book of Mormon, um, that is where I've had the moments of peace that I've really felt him come to me and be there with me
Mhm.
in my moments of suffering. I I do not normally share this, Chase, but I feel like I should.
Right.
This is very personal to me, and I know some people won't appreciate it for what it is. And that's okay because I still feel good about talking about it. I was in New York. I was selling door to door pest control, and was just struggling. I didn't really want to be there that summer. It was the third summer I'd done it. I was ready to move on and go do something else.
Mhm.
But I went anyways because I didn't have anything else lined up. And I just sat down on the grass and was just tired, just heavy. I didn't want to be there.
Mhm.
And called my mom, chatted with her for a minute, and she talked to me about something my high school chemistry teacher that I freaking love to this day. Um, talked about in a religious setting because he was then in the area, just in the Brigham City area. He was over the youth of that area, and so he shared. There's a scripture that says we preach of Christ, we rejoice of Christ, we prophesy of Christ, and we write according to our prophecies that our children may know where they may look to find a remission of their sins. And I didn't quote that exactly right, but that's the idea. And he says, what if we changed of to with? We rejoice with Christ, we preach with Christ, we prophesy with Christ.
Mhm.
And she really emphasized the point of why don't you do things with Christ? I was like, well, why don't I go knock doors with him? And so I hung up and just said, thanks, Mom, I appreciate this. So I hung up the phone and I just said a prayer and just said, I really need you right now.
Mhm.
And I kid you not, I felt him come and be there with me. Didn't see anything,
Mhm.
felt it, felt an arm around me.
Mhm.
And got up and just said, "Okay," and just I was like, "What do I do?" And the words I heard would go knock the next door. I don't want to do that. I'm just telling you, I don't want to do that.
Mhm.
And so I said, "Okay." Went and knocked the next door across the street, and nobody answered. But I sat there and I was just, he was there with me for a minute. I was just like, "Can you please be with me for a minute? I don't know if I can keep doing this." He's like,
Mm.
"Yeah, no worries." These are just the feelings I had. I'm explaining
Voicing,
with
yeah.
voicing what my emotions and what my thoughts and feelings were.
Mhm.
It's not exactly how it happened, but I can't really explain it if I tried.
No, you're good. You're doing great.
Um, and I just said, "So when you felt rejected and felt like nobody loved and cared about you, how did you get through that?" And he said, "I remembered who I was," meaning speaking in the first person, talking about himself.
Mhm.
And that really hit me because all of humanity, when he was rejected, when he was on the cross, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, was against him or mocking him. But he literally held the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Mm.
And he was willing to still go through it because he remembered his roles and his responsibility, but he remembered more than that, that he's a son of Heavenly Father, just like you and I are.
Right.
Obviously, we're not his begotten, but that doesn't mean we can't be used as an instrument for him.
Mhm.
And that really was like, we talk about big spiritual experiences. That was one of the probably the last major ones that I've had. And
Mhm.
since then, they've been more just little minor things. Just
Mhm.
the light turned green when I needed it to because I was in a hurry, or my kid came up and gave me a hug after I had a hard day at work and I felt his love through my kid,
Mhm.
or my wife just, "Hey, you okay?" And just noticed when I was out, just little things like that. And I can't even remember anything off the top of my head other than that.
Mhm.
I remember getting to the point because of the scrupulosity that I'd go out and I'd serve people, and I was like, "God, I've been here for you all the time, but when I need you, where are you?"
Mhm.
And I kid you not, I'm sitting in priesthood in the back of the classroom. Member of the bishopric sitting next to me. Within 30 seconds of me offering that silent prayer, he just goes, "Hey, Nick, I love you, man." I was like, "Sorry." "Okay, I get it." And same thing about 3, 4 months later. This was before I was married. I was just like, I was in my room. I had 3 roommates. One of them I went to high school with. Me and him are still good buddies.
Mhm.
I still really like all these guys. And I'm just in my room going, "I need you. I have given my life for you." And obviously I hadn't done it with the right intentions. Otherwise I wouldn't be feeling this way. Food for thought. But and it's okay. I know that's where I'm at. And I honestly don't feel shame around that. But
Mhm. Good.
I'm now OCDing that somebody else might be feeling shame because they've had the same thought. It's okay if you feel shame. Um,
It's okay if you have that thought too. It's a part of the human
it's okay if
experience.
right? It's okay.
Yep.
You're a work in progress. I love that. But I watched Tyler Patrick's one yesterday just in preparation for this, and I love that little skill set on the self compassion. Is realize it's part of the human experience, feel where it's at, and then apply self compassion. And I've been doing that since yesterday, and I'm like, man, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I know this before? I loved it. Um, but where was I going with that? So I'm sitting there. Sorry, I'm going back to my story now. I'm really good at tangent thing. Going back to my story now. I'm sitting there in my room, and I'm like, why, if I've done all this for you, and I know I'd done things for him. I know I'd been able to touch people because I'd
Mhm.
experienced it. I felt him there with me as I was helping these people through whatever it was they were going through.
Mhm.
And I just didn't feel like there was anybody there for me for that. I said amen in that prayer, and my roommate walked in. "Nick, you okay?" "Okay."
Yeah, I get
And
it.
I get it. You're there. I'm sorry. And I realized what it is Christ warns against sign seekers.
Mhm,
I was looking for a sign. I was looking for a big miraculous thing
mhm,
to happen. I was looking for me to be exalted. I was looking for me to be celestialized. I was looking for me to be never make a mistake again. And I was missing all the little things.
mhm.
And so you talk about skills and what works, taking the time to be there with people and trusting that God will take care of you because you're his kid. Why wouldn't he?
Right.
And he's a loving father. He's not one that abandoned. He's not one that walked out. He never walks out. One of my favorite poems is Footprints, and I'll just give a quick synopsis on it. Is an old man at the end of his life is walking on a beach and over the ocean, plays like the story of his life, and next to him is Christ walking with him.
Mhm,
And they go through, and Christ goes, "You remember that?" And they laugh sometimes, they cry sometimes. He feels a little bit of shame. The guy feels a little bit of shame sometimes, and they get to the end of his life, and he looks back and notices that during all the hard moments of his life, there was only one set of footprints. And he's like, "God, why would you leave me in those moments?" And Jesus put his hands on his shoulders and just says, "My son, I would never leave you." In those moments where you see one set of footprints, I was carrying. And through all of this, through the OCD, through everything, even when I've had the hardest go in my life, he's been there. And I haven't always wanted his help. Sometimes I've pushed it away because I haven't felt worthy of it. And that's honestly been me the last year. I haven't even done anything like horribly wrong to deserve. I just, for whatever reason, got back in my head
mhm.
that, yeah, I'm not worthy unless I'm doing X, Y, and Z, unless I'm perfect. And it hasn't been until recently, that I've felt that, you know, I'm okay. Not because of me, but because of him. I will be okay. Even after this life, it's the worst kingdom that he has is better than this world. So I'm okay.
Yeah, no matter what, you're gonna win. No matter what, you've already
um,
won. I love that, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for being willing to come on this show and feel safe enough to express those emotions. Like I can feel it through the wall, through the camera. It's palpable how much you love Heavenly Father and how much you rely on him. And I think that's so important. So thank you. Thank you for being willing to share that part of you. Looking back, Nick, at everything you've been through up to this point in your life, what can you appreciate about all the hard things you've had to go through?
I paid a mentor for a while, a lot of money, and I was actually really glad I did it, and I would totally do it again.
Mhm,
Um, he was one of the guys that first helped me realize kind of how to love myself. He was another fatherly figure for me in a different way than my own dad was. My dad was really good at sacrifice, less good at
mhm,
emotionally engaging. This guy was very good at emotionally engaging and helping me know how to work through my own stuff. Um, and I needed both. I needed the dad that would kick my butt to get me out the door to go do things,
mhm.
and I needed the dad that, and he didn't. My father never literally kicked my butt, just figuratively, metaphorically. Um,
We had different dads.
yeah,
I
I
got
take that back. There was one time he kicked my butt, but I think I deserved it. Um,
it's like I don't ever claim that I was abused physically as a child, right? I don't
right.
even want to try and compare myself to some of those kids who were abused physically. And
Actually,
there
you
were some
deserve.
moments just like that where I was kicked, I was bopped, I was pushed, I was punched. Like there were those moments that I had, and I can look back into everything I did before those moments, and I can say, like, yeah, if I was a dad and my kid did that, I'd probably bop him too. Lovingly, I'm not abusing my kid, but just like
Right,
I know what you mean. But sorry.
right.
So you were reflecting on this guy that you've been through, and having both the
And
dads.
one, sorry, yeah. And so one of the things, and I know we're getting close to time here, so I'll try and wrap it up. But
You're doing great.
one of the things he taught me is the law of polarity, and I've kind of hinted at this. If you go back through and watch this after I talk about this, you'll see as I'm talking about these things, the law of polarity states that Where there's a positive, there's a negative. Where there's a front, there's a back. Where there's an up, there's a down. Where there's justice, there's mercy. Where there's good, there's bad. And the thing that I appreciate is through all the bad, the good has tasted that much more sweet. In spite of hating myself for years, I don't think I could love myself now more because I didn't know what it was like to dislike myself. And I didn't know what it was like to have a good relationship, which I have now, where me and my wife are pretty much in sync on like not everything, but like most everything. And
Mhm.
we have really good discussions, and we both give and take, and we try to work it so that we're both happy. Because I had relationships that weren't that way, both platonic and romantic.
Mhm.
And I really like just what Tyler said, Patrick, in his, that taking the time, like this little red light therapy session that I did was great because it was like, I wasn't planning on this today because I just thought I was coming down here for a podcast, even though I could have done it from home. But I was like, I feel kind of dumb for being here, but I'm going to take this moment to love myself in this little red light therapy pod.
Mhm.
And so I appreciated that.
Mhm.
Um, and I really, the biggest skill, honestly, is gratitude. That's literally the thing that pulls me into the present moment and being mindful of what I'm grateful for. Usually, always, like my grandpa's only got a couple months left, and he's fighting cancer. And I went and hung out with him yesterday, and it pained me to see him that way because I've known him to be a very outgoing, very much always doing something guy. We recorded a 12-minute session about his childhood, and he's like, push pause, like, I'm gassed. I gotta take it. I gotta sleep. And I'm just like, this is not the grandpa that I grew up with. And it hurt
Mhm.
to see that. And I don't know that he even knows he has a few months left, but the nurses talked to me and my mom, and that's where he's at.
Mhm.
And so me and my wife have been doing a gratitude meditation led by a guy named Matt Cook. He's on Instagram. He's a manifestation coach, but he's really cool. He's about our age. And that gratitude meditation has very much changed how I feel about life. It's brought out what's most important. Like last night, it was my health and just the
Mhm.
fact that I could breathe and live and move both arms and jump up and down, and then my family and the people that I know. Um, that's what I was grateful for more than any material thing. I was just grateful for the people that I have in my life,
Mhm.
and realize it's helped me realize where my priorities are. And that's, you asked earlier, what's made me want to go into shift into helping people, because that's what's most important. And if I can take care of my family while I'm doing it, if I can go make a lot of money while I'm doing it, doesn't matter, because at the end of
Mhm.
the day, people are what matter more than anything. And yes, I do need to support a family. I know people that are scrupulous and religious that are going, okay, yeah, I can just go serve people. You got to go get a job. You got to do both,
Mhm.
but you can get a job that helps people.
You can. Yeah.
Like what you're doing, Chase.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you,
So,
man. It's the red light therapy. I know we've talked about it a little bit. It really, the focus is, it is true, is to help people, right? And I don't want to plug red light therapy right now. I know it's a part that I do plug, but right now it doesn't feel like the right time, right? The focus right now needs to be on helping people, because I think that's so true. I think the ability to receive people, love people, learn to understand people, help people, right? That's the whole point of this podcast, right? Because of you, Nick, and your willingness to share your story, we're serving people and we're helping people. And to me, there's no calling more important,
well, and
right?
that's honestly why I wanted to go into interpersonal communication. I wanted to
Mhm.
understand how to influence somebody for the better. I wanted to know how to help somebody feel so heard that they would let their guard down, they would let their walls down. And like, I want to teach people that because it has blessed my life. I have helped my wife set up boundaries, and she's like, I've never been more free to do what I want, how I want, where I want than I have right now. And that's why I do this, is because it's fun to watch these people have these light bulb moments
Mhm.
and change their lives. And it's been so cool to
Awesome.
just, I don't, anyways, that's why I want to do that. But keep going.
No, dude, I
Whatever.
love it. I absolutely love it. So, bro, let's final question for you. For those people just discovering mental health, just getting into the realm of mental health and doing this recovery work for themselves, what advice do you have for those people?
So I'm going to speak more to the supporter of the people in mental health, if that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
Because, go ahead.
No, do it. I'm a firm believer in a term called rigorous acceptance. All things are as they should be because they are, right? And if
Mhm.
you feel the need to talk to the supporters in this episode, that's exactly who we need to talk to right now.
Well, and it's honestly, it's funny because it's your, and I know I've given thoughts and I've given quote unquote advice as it felt necessary throughout this, but
Mhm.
I don't know. It's because it was in the moment. It felt right in the moment. I don't know what you need, so I don't feel justified giving you advice.
Okay.
Um, I do know what supporters need, and that is to not give advice.
Okay.
You can't, as a supporter, and I say this because I have been one and I've been on the receiving end of somebody that struggled with mental health. And it's something that me and my mom had a little bit of a spat with, and it's going to come across probably not the way that I want it to. So I'm going to try and word it politely because the way that I just thought about it didn't feel as lovingly as I wanted it to.
Okay.
Um, but basically, it's in a book that I read in my interpersonal communication class, in my conflict resolution class, that says, hey, if you're sitting with somebody that's dying, what words of comfort can you give them other than to just be there with them in that moment?
Mhm.
To offer advice would almost be insulting
Mhm.
because we don't know what they're experiencing. We don't know what they're going through. We can have inclinations and ideas,
Mhm.
but I just sat in silence with my grandpa for a solid hour yesterday. I didn't know what to tell him. I just let him talk as he felt the need to. I let him rest as he felt the need to. And I don't even know if that's the right thing to do in that particular instance. I just didn't feel like I had anything that I could give him then and there that would fix him. And I think that's the biggest misunderstanding, is that we rush our, especially in America, our modern society teaches you got to go be this awesome person, you got to own and run 10 businesses. You got to do and be there for your kids and do all this stuff, when ultimately the last 7,000 years weren't that way. It was very much, you go and you work on a farm, you go and you work and you help people. And yes, there were big cities back then, but they still had their trades. I think ultimately, taking time to be with people without thinking we know the solutions to their problems, and just listening and just asking questions to try and understand, it's out of a place of curiosity. Hey, what when you said XYZ so many times now, I've heard the phrase, I just don't want to do this anymore. What does that mean? Can you
Mhm.
explain that to me more?
Mhm.
Yeah, I just want to take my life, or yeah, I just want to, just whatever. I just don't want to go to school anymore. I just don't want to da 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 da. Tell me more about that. Explore what they're saying and what they're feeling, and honestly, truthfully, you will gain a connection with those people that you
Mhm.
would have never had by, oh, it's okay, you got this, keep going.
Mhm.
I know that's your intention, is to do what that would do,
Mhm.
is to help them through that, but to help them is to be present. Put away your phone, put away our phones, I should say, because I still have to do this with myself. I still have to do this with my kids. I'm not perfect at this. I hope you don't think that I'm perfect at this.
Right.
Um, I still try and fix people all the time.
You're a human.
It's me both. But I've just found that to spend that quality time, to go be in nature with people, to go where they're at without you, to go where they're at, to love them where they're at, is by far more helpful than, hey, you got this, you can do this. And
Mhm.
sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, there are instances where, hey, you got this, you need this, is appropriate, because you need that boundary for yourself.
Right.
But if it's every time, that's when you get into trouble. Anyways, that's what I would say to the advocates for people and the supporters of family that don't really know what to do
Yeah.
for people that are struggling with it.
I think what you said was so accurate and so knowledgeable, right? Because in my own words, right, a lot of people don't seek to understand. A lot of people seek to have the solution, right? Because you want to be the solution person. It feels good to have an answer that works for people. I know that's like one of my struggles. That's a lot of people's struggles.
But
And
it's not about you.
it's not
Sorry.
exactly. No, you're good. It's not about you. And what it comes down to when you go your route, right? Would tell me more about things. What you're doing is you're actually getting to the emotion of the other human, right? You might not be able to like empathize, right, with someone who has cancer, but fear you can empathize with. Sadness you can empathize with, right? There are those emotions, and the way you say go about asking these questions, tell me more, let's go be in these things, let's put our phone down and connect as a human being. It's that emotion that you're connecting with, and that is the deepest form of connection that any human being can have. So I love that.
And that is what will help those people feel supported. When my mom would do that for me, when I had my conflict professor do it for me, when I had this fatherly figure do it for me, are the times that I felt the most clear, the most safe, the most grounded
Mhm.
and safe, and okay to not be okay. And knowing that I can make it because somebody does care about me.
Yeah.
And ultimately God does.
Mhm.
But again, like I've told you, I'm not always in a place to hear him. I'm in a place to hear other people, and a lot of the times I'll feel him through them. But that's been my experience, is that. And I guess my one, I guess, piece of advice would be to people that are struggling is go find somebody that will do that for you.
Love it.
Because there's some people that you're going to do that to, and no matter how much you try and explain that's not what I need, they're not going to change. So go find the people that naturally do that, that don't take on your problems. Don't go trauma dump.
Mhm.
Don't go, because that doesn't help them. Don't go complain to them. I don't know. Like, it's hard. It's a fine line to walk. Don't feel like you're going to be a burden, but be productive as you're sharing your feelings.
Love it.
Is more what I'm trying to say.
Great advice. Great advice, Nick. Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time coming down to my center to check out the red light, to try the red light, to be on the
For sure.
podcast. Like, dude, it's been a really fun and cool experience to connect with you on this deeper level. And, as people are listening to this episode, they're loving what you're saying. They're wanting to get in contact with you. I know you kind of talked about and you shared with me your Instagram. So tell us a little bit more about your Instagram channel that you're starting up.
Yeah, so I've got two of them. I'm just kind of, because I'm trying to learn how to do Instagram. I've honestly never been a big social media person,
Mhm.
and but I very much felt called to get what I've learned out. So for what it's worth, the two Instagram channels that I have is Coaching with Nick Moyle, or no,
Mhm.
pardon me, the official Nick Moyle, and then the other one is Emotions with Nick Moyle. They're basically going to say the same things, just tweaked a little bit differently, just because I'm trying to play the algorithm
Mhm.
to figure out what works. But you can find me at either or. I'm taking a little more time, and it should be here soon. I'm having technical difficulties because I've never done this before, and so it's a new skill that I'm learning. The story of an entrepreneur, but takes longer than you want it to every time.
Every
But
time.
um, basically, I want people to be armed with the language to describe the emotions they're feeling, and
Mhm.
and then also have the skills. I'm centering both pages around emotional intelligence, understanding yourself, knowing tools to use to get through it, being able to empathize with others, and then being able to have constructive, good conflict that's not angry and contentious. Conflict just means that there's somebody's needs aren't getting met. Conflict does not need to mean that you're having a shouting match at each other. So to
Mhm.
have conflict without the shouting, without the anger, um, is what those are going to be centered around. So that's, if you're interested in following and learning more about that, that's where I would go to start.
Okay.
Start with the official Moyle, because that one's got stuff on it. I just started the emotions with Nick Moyle like the other day, and there's nothing on it yet. So
Okay, I'll make sure to put both in the description of the
cool.
video.
Thank
So for those who want to go check this out, definitely go check out the comment section or the description section. Well, perfect. Nick, again, last time, bro, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate your time. And for those who just finished listening to this entire episode and Nick's amazing story of resilience and recovery, I thank you personally. I know Nick thanks you personally for coming here and hearing this story. If you haven't already, again, I invite you to share this with someone. I know someone has come to mind throughout the episode, so I invite you to go share it with them. Please do that. Please bless
Mhm.
their lives. Please bless our lives. Right, that would only be so important. That is so important for all of us. So please make sure to do that. And again, if you haven't, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. If you're on one of the podcasting platforms, make sure to leave a 5-star review and a comment in the descriptions. Just giving Nick a shout out, letting him know how awesome he is and how good the episode was and how much you enjoyed it. Everyone, thank you again so much for tuning into the Wellness Center podcast. I hope you guys had a great day. If you want to come on my show, understand that no story is too big and no name is too small. If you do have a story, I want to share it all. You can contact me at chase@thewellnesscenter.life. One more time, that's chase@thewellnesscenter.life. If you want to know more about what I do on my day-to-day basis, I know we talked about it a little bit today on the episode with the red light therapy, but just visit the www.thewellnesscenter.life, where you're going to learn all about red light therapy and how it can recalibrate every single cell in your body, one session at a time. Again, everyone, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace out.